now your host, Shelly Sanders.
Good afternoon. Welcome to Conversations with Shelly. How's everyone doing on this beautiful Sunday afternoon? My name is Michelle Sanders, better known as Shelly, and I'm your host for today's conversations. Welcome again to Conversations with Shelly. Guys, I don't know about you guys, but I am enjoying myself here in Tampa, Florida. We're having a beautiful sunshiny day. It is so hot out here. But I tell you guys, even with it being so hot, we know that we're dealing with storms, we're dealing with natural disasters, and we're dealing with the fight there in Afghanistan. So all I want to say is, Facebook family, YouTube audience, please pray for Haiti. Please pray for those that have been impacted by the storms that have come through the states, Fred, and also Henry, Henri, as some call it. And also, I believe Grace is out there. And then, of course, for our military and those there in Afghanistan, please, 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 let's just lift up ourselves in prayer. And then we're dealing with COVID. And it seems like it's so much that's going on, guys. But I want to tell you that we are here, we are alive, we are breathing, and if God graced us with another breath and another day, then we are thankful for what we have. And we're praying for those who've been impacted definitely by COVID and the loss that have happened with this Delta variant as well. So, guys, just stay safe in everything that you're doing. Just stay safe. And I know there's conversation on both sides about if you should do one thing or you should do the other. It's your personal decision, but make sure you protect yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family, all right? All right, guys. So, again, welcome to Conversations with Shelly. I'm so excited that we get to spend this hour together. And we have a show for you. As you guys know, we've been talking over these last few weeks about how great thou art. And we've been talking about art, and we've been sharing various artists that have been on the show, those who've had designs, fashion designs. We had on Liz on last week, and then we've had those that have come and displayed their work. We've had music. We've had performances. We've had all different types of arts that have been here. We've had a violinist to come on as well. And today we have an awesome show for you. The poets are in the house. Yes, the poets are in the house. And I say it like that because, you know, I grew up in church, and I used to be live in North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, and I went to Bethel Family Worship Center, Bishop George G. Bloomer, and they would have prophets to come. And so one of the things they used to say is the prophets are in the house, and everybody was excited because the prophets are in the house. But guys, today the poets are in the house, and they're going to share with us some great poets, and they're going to talk to us about the history of some of the things that they've done as it relates to live performances, some being an author, etc. So we're going to move on. But guys, first of all, you know what I like for you to do. We're now on YouTube as well. Soul Cafe, Soul Cafe, SOULKAFERM, out there on YouTube. So please like, share, and subscribe. So right now, go to your social media platforms and make sure you share it with your friends. And guess what, Facebook fam? For those of you who are able to share, go out and share with your social media audience and come back in and type SCWC, Share Conversations with Shelly, in the comment section. We'll be able to win this beautiful wine glass with our logo on it. I hope you guys can see it. If not, we'll make sure we take a picture. But this beautiful wine glass, the Conversations with Shelly with our logo on it, you will be able to win that. The first person who goes out and shares this social media platform with your social media platforms, wherever that is, you will be able to win this beautiful glass, all right? All right, so with that, I'm excited for our day today because we have some great guests on our show. So as you know, we're going to talk about it. That's what we do. We've been talking about art, and I've told you as we define things, the art is the expression and application of human creativity and imagination, typically in a visual form such as painting, sculpture, producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. And I tell you, poetry is an emotional power, that spoken word. So I want to talk a little bit about the spoken word before we bring on our guest today. So to give you a little bit of history, because I always like to educate our audience as well. So spoken word refers to an oral poetic performance art that is based mainly on the poem as well as the performer's aesthetic qualities. It is a late 20th century continuation of an ancient oral artistic tradition that focuses on the aesthetics of recitation and wordplay, such as the performer's live intonation and voice inflection. Spoken word is a catch-all term that includes any kind of poetry recited aloud, including poetry readings, poetry slams, jazz poetry, and hip-hop music, and can include comedy routines and monologues. So one of the things I wanted to share, specifically, visceral, in your face, in your ears, in your snapping fingers and tapping feet spoken word poetry sprang loosely from the expressive energies of the blues, the Harlem Renaissance, and hip-hop music, which had each permeated Black communities throughout America over the course of this century. Mimicking the 1960s beat, poet of coffee houses and oral interactive live art, spoken word, and slam poetry emerged in the 1990s, more diverse and less agenda-driven. Similarly, it came from the margins of cities like Chicago and New York. Spoken word poetry is rhythmic and unstructured. It is composed of medleys of slang and ordinary language. There are no rules, no etiquette. It comes out of young people, older people, middle-aged people, activists, artists. In 1986, a construction worker in Chicago organized the very first event in the style of a poetry slam at a local jazz club. Ever since, poets have been performing and competing both alone and with groups in poetry slams where they are judged on flow, rhythm, style, enthusiasm. The fundamental lack of pretension in this oral form of poetry is what was given spoken word its charm, its power, and its renaissance over the last 20 or so years. So, Facebook fam, I'm so excited. The poets are in the house, and we're going to talk a little bit about poetry, and we're going to talk about what these gentlemen have done within the Tampa Bay area. So with that, we're going to go ahead and introduce our first guest. We have three gentlemen that's going to come on and be a part of our panel today. So our first guest is Walter B. Jennings. So Walter B. Jennings, let me read you a little bit about his bio, and then he's going to join us. Walter B. Jennings is an ordained minister, published poet, spoken word artist, radio personality, instructor, and strawberry fruit roll-up enthusiast. A native of Tampa, Florida, his poetical talents have allowed him to conduct over 1,000 performances, workshops, and mentorship sessions in the national spoken word community during his 20-plus year career. Wally B. is the co-founder of Black on Black Rhyme Tampa, one of Central Florida's largest and longest-running open mic poetry shows since September 2001. And he is the founder of the Heard 'Em Say Youth Art Collective. Please help me welcome, Facebook fam, our first guest, Walter B. Jennings. Walter, are you out there?
Yes, I am. Good evening.
All right. Yes. I'm going to say, make sure you unmute, but you know what to do. Thank you. So, Walter, please say hello to our Facebook fam.
Yeah, so good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all so much for allowing us this platform to come and share a little bit about our experience with Black on Black Rhyme Tampa. And we're actually celebrating 20 years of Black on Black Rhyme Tampa this year. And so it's apropos for us to come on and share a little bit about the trials, the starts, the triumphs, and all the things that went into those 20 years.
Oh, my goodness. Tell me a little bit more about you. Your family and your children. I understand you're married and also your father.
Yes, so I actually I've been married for as long as I've been doing Black on Black Rhyme, which is something that is a part of my work as well. That's been a big influence and something that helped me to really gain some stability not only in my art but in my personal life. They've worked together. But yeah, I'm a Tampa native. Tampa is this is my home. This is where my roots are. And so I actually got my start in poetry as an 8th grade student. A teacher gave us an assignment to keep a journal, and I was like, oh, no, I don't really do that. But after I made a couple zeros, I was like, okay, we'll try this thing out. And so one Friday, after I had turned in my journal, she handed it back to me and she said, Walter, I really enjoyed your poems. And I said, what do you mean? She said, well, your journal entries, the way that you write them, they're actually poems. And it was one of the first few times where I was acknowledged for something that came really natural. And that was truthful for me. I had lived a life where I was trying to trying to acquiesce into something and somebody that I wasn't. And so poetry was one of the conduits that helped me to really face who I really was and who God created me to be, and became part of my voice. And part of my mission with poetry and spoken word is to help other people in their path to discover their voice. So not only in sharing my work and helping to get free myself, I hope that that becomes a model and also an encouragement for other people to find their voice and free themselves as well.
I love it. It's nothing like zeros to help motivate a student, right?
Yeah.
Those, I was going to say those zeros. That's amazing. And it goes back to teachers, right, and educators, and what they're able to pull, and just an assignment like that help you tap into something that is a gift, and that's pretty tremendous. So I love that story. And I love the fact that now you're out wanting to help others tap into, that spoken word. You're talking about over 1,000 performances over a 20-year period of time. That is tremendous, Walter B. That's tremendous.
Thank you. Yeah, it's been a blessing over the years to have the opportunity to travel around and to perform. And as you mentioned, with some of the poetry competitions, my brother, who we'll hear from a little later, Life, and we've wrote some perfect score poems together. It seems like, as he always likes to say, every time we write a poem together, do a poem together, it's what we call a 30, which is a perfect score. And but those competitions open doors to connect with other artists in other cities that do what we do. And the poetry world and community is very large, but it's also very small in that, if you're doing a show and you're looking for somebody in Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, they're usually one phone call away. And so we have enjoyed that over the years, as far as not only growing in our artistry, but also in our instructional way as well. So people have given me the chance to come in and do workshops and things of that nature with their students or even with adults. And those experiences we've been able to actually bring back and influence the local community here with things like the Hillsborough County Poetry Jam, with things like Heard 'Em Say, which has been a big part of building the artistic infrastructure here in the Tampa Bay area.
Go back, talk to me a little bit about Heard 'Em Say, and I like that because we're talking about poetry, and that's why I wanted to read the history. It's about the expression of words, and I'm sure our young people. I think about our young people, and just so many things they're inundated with. So the ability to be able to, I know it can be therapy. I know for me, I've written poems myself and had a couple of things published. And so I know sometimes I journal and I write things down, not all the time, but sometimes I'll write things down, and I know how it helps me get those feelings out sometimes. So talk to me a little bit about Heard 'Em Say Youth Art Collective.
Sure. So Heard 'Em Say was founded in May of 2007 to identify, cultivate, and empower youth in activism and advocacy through artistic education and expression. And that was established, as I mentioned, with my story with getting involved in poetry and spoken word as an 8th grade student. One of the first things that I thought about, and I didn't mention this part, I started writing and began to identify myself as a poet when I was an 8th grade student, but I still didn't share my work publicly. I didn't have the platforms as a young person that young people have today. So it wasn't until really 8 years later, when I was a senior at FAMU, where I was able to share my work on an open mic. And the first thing that I thought of when I got off the mic, because of because of the reception that I got, the validation, but also the way that I felt, was, wow, what would my life have been like if I embraced this when I was younger, if I really accepted who I was created to be and what was inside of me and my experiences when I was younger. And so that actually set me on a path again of creating something specifically for young people so that they could find again their voice. Not every young person is going to be athletically inclined. Not every young person is going to be a 4.0, 5.0, 6.0 student. But as you mentioned, what are some other ways that we can get them plugged in? And especially as we live in a society and in a world where those youth programs and enrichment and academic organizations that young people have had over the years are going away. Heard 'Em Say wanted to provide a platform for young people to come out and express themselves. So the primary platform is spoken word poetry. However, if you're a young person that you always getting in trouble for cracking jokes in school and laughing all the time, come out and tell your jokes on stage, or come out and be a host. Or if you're a young lady or a young man that likes to sing, you can sing. Or if you dance, and you and your people, we just want to create a space to help young people identify and to cultivate the skills and the passions that they have. And those were things, again, that I had as a young person, whether it was in church, whether it was in community activities, and a lot of those things are going away. So Heard 'em Say is a continuation of that mindset and having that in place for our young people.
Good stuff. Thank you for sharing that specifically, and I'm sure our production team is sharing with our Facebook and YouTube audience where they can find you and take advantage of that collective program as well as for the youth. So with that was a great lead-in as you were talking about your brother and friend and co-founder of Black on Black Rhyme Tampa. And so with that, I'm going to go ahead and introduce our next panelist, Facebook family, YouTube audience, and I would ask for our production team to let's move to our view that we can be able to show both of our guests on. And so with that, I'm going to give a quick bio of Life Malcolm. He is our next guest. Life Malcolm is Tampa Bay's first full-time spoken word artist, performing spoken word and producing spoken word events for a living for 15 years. Life Malcolm, along with James J.B. Hillsman and Walter Wally B. Jennings, is a co-founder of Black on Black Rhyme Tampa, the longest-running spoken word show in Tampa Bay. Life Malcolm also founded other spoken word experiences, Flow for Dough, Tampa Bay's first poetry slam, the Tampa Bay Black Heritage Festival Poetry Slam, Tampa Bay's largest spoken word event ever, the Young People's Poetry Slam, Tampa Bay's first poetry slam for young people, The Stage, an intimate spoken word experience, Healing What's Killing Us, a spoken word event focused on health issues in the African community, Gifted, Tampa Bay's first premier spoken word event, and Straight Up Poetry, Tampa Bay's final premier spoken word event. Life Malcolm retired from spoken word in December 2014. Life Malcolm holds an AA in business, an BA in Africana Studies, a master's in criminal justice, and a Juris Doctor. Life Malcolm also hosts the Life Malcolm Show on In Touch News. The significant things mentioned above, notwithstanding, the most important thing to know about Life Malcolm is that Life Malcolm loves the people. Speak with him and experience that love for yourself. So Facebook family, YouTube audience, please welcome to our panel, Life Malcolm. Life, are you out there? Make sure you're unmuted. Make sure you're unmuted.
I'm here. Thank you so much for the splendid introduction. I appreciate it so much.
Good stuff. It's so great to have you on. And I just want to make sure that your mic is on like it was before so we can make sure we're getting your volume. We're
Can
good?
we say 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2,
All
1,
right.
2?
Yes, yes.
Good?
Okay, good stuff.
Good.
All right, so tell me a little bit about, I don't want to go into the founding of BOBR until we bring on the third co-founder, right?
Right
and
on.
So then I would like for you guys to jump into that with me. But tell me a little bit more about your life, Life Malcolm. So let me ask, Life Malcolm, is that your actual name or is that your stage name, business name?
I don't have a stage name. My name is Life Malcolm.
All right, okay. I just was making sure.
I guess it's my name when I get on stage if I was to do that, but it's Life Malcolm is my name.
Yeah, so tell us a little bit more about yourself. Were you born and raised here in Tampa?
Born and raised in Tampa on January the 1st, 1975. I was born at St. Joe's Women's Hospital. I should have been the first, the New Year's baby. I should have been the first, but this little white boy beat me out. So his mama got all the stuff, the stuff that the New Year's baby gets. But because I should have been the first baby born that year, that baby died. And so began the history of my life.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Like, the little boy, I don't know how to take that. I'm sorry that the little boy died.
Yeah, I mean,
Wow.
Me too.
Oh, you are? Okay, I just want to make sure.
I mean, we weren't really close. We just happened to be born in proximity. But I'm
Right.
just saying, it was just how it all jumped off. My life was controversial from the very first moment.
From the beginning.
Yeah.
So this should be an interesting conversation then, since you that controversial from birth.
I can imagine. So born and raised in Tampa, grew up in a Baptist church called New Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church.
Yeah.
which is actually where I started doing poems. I started doing performance poetry before I started writing poems. A guy at our church named Deacon Cornell Upshaw used to go around and perform The Creation by James Weldon Johnson, and I was so impressed by his
Oh,
performances that I asked him once to record it. I might have just told him I wanted to learn to do that poem the way he did, and he ended up recording an audio cassette tape for me and played that thing forever and ever. And so until I learned how to do it just like him did. And at like I guess 6 or 7 years old, I was doing that kind of stuff in churches, and then a guy named William Saunders, who I can't remember his thing now. Was it something gospel expression? Somebody might
yes,
know.
yes.
Yeah. So William Saunders, but I can tell you right now, he at least last I heard, he ran the Black Heritage Festival as of late, and so he found me at New Mount Zion Missionary Baptist Church, and got me on his team. I think it's UGE. I can't remember what the U stands for, but anyway, he got me involved with his thing, and I would go around to various churches and other such venues and do the creation, and that eventually morphed into me becoming a licensed Baptist minister at the age of 11. And
Oh my.
yeah, and so that involved a lot of speaking too. And then I thought I was going to be a rapper, and that did not work out for various reasons. And I ended up back in Tampa and started doing my raps for poems at venues where I would run into these gentlemen who on the show right now, and decided that that was kind of cheesy to do my raps as poems, and started writing poems. And it caught on, and we did all right with that
Wow.
poetry stuff for a while.
That's just, I mean, your story is tremendous. And actually, I know Mr. Carnell Upshaw and also William Sanders as well. My family's in the singing, and actually, he used to host a lot of our choirs,
Okay.
um, choir events here in Progress Village. So I'm coming to you from the Soul Cafe,
Okay.
7923 Flower Avenue, Tampa, Florida. And First Baptist Church of Progress Village is my home church where I
Okay.
grew up, and he used to host a lot of our youth mass choir and junior male chorus events. So yes, I know him very well.
I
And
probably
then
preached
William
there.
Sanders, of course, with the singing, we were all involved. So it's just amazing how, life, how life is life in as far as connections. And, just what I'm hearing mirrored by Wally B is the impact of someone in your life, mentoring you or pushing you or seeing some talent in you or challenging you to do something. And from there, being able to come forward with the gift that's there. So it's interesting. You said, ordained at 11 and then you were going to be a rapper. So what are you today? I mean, so you were an ordained minister, you're a rapper. So where did you end up being in that spectrum?
So I was not ordained. I was licensed, which is
Oh,
different. And
license. Okay.
yeah, ordained ministers get to do all kinds of stuff that us people with ministerial license can't do. They can
Yes,
marry
yes.
people and stuff like that. We can't do such things. But yeah, and I didn't pursue it that heavily. Again, I was young, 11 years old. And so by the time I was 17, the pulpit wasn't so much my place of preference, and so I began, hobnobbing in the streets, if you will, and which helped to build some of the stories that I wrote about in my raps. And so you asked the question though, what am I today? Today, I'm a doctor of law, and I talk a lot. I'm a nutritionist. I'm the father of three incredible daughters and a granddaughter, and I must say, I'm the father forever and forevermore of young Life Lazarus Coleman, the murdered son who bandits came to my home and killed on January 5th, 2015. So yeah, I'm that guy.
Wow.
I'm the barrel of the gun, if you will, when it comes to speaking out about revolution and overturning systems and
Yes.
community control of the police. And yeah, I'm that person. And sometimes when I get together with these guys, they make me do a poem. I think something like that might happen today.
That might happen today. All right, let's see with that. So talk about you guys. So let's bring on our third panelist, and then we'll move forward. These gentlemen so far, just your background, your history, your giftings. I'm just so excited as we continue to move forward with our discussion today. Poetry, how great thou art. All right, so our third panelist, James J.B. Hillsman. James J.B. Hillsman, a.k.a. Captain Visor, a.k.a. Captain Burberry, a.k.a. Mr. P.I.M.P., Mr. Pimp, poet in my perspective, along with a colorful host of other nicknames, is 1/3 of the founding fathers of Black on Black Rhyme, BOBR Tampa. An ex-military man and father of 4, poetry somehow found him at a time where he needed it most. Picked up a pen, and it changed his life. He has not looked back since. Writing during a time when poetry wasn't popular, he soon learned that he could say quite a bit with the stroke of a pen. From writing solo to group writing with the Conscious Party prior to BOBR, it is quite clear the pen favors him and his mind is worth listening to. So let's listen to this mind as we bring on Facebook fam and YouTube audience, James J.B. Hillsman. JB, are you out there?
Yes, I'm here.
Good
Can you hear me
stuff.
okay?
I tell you. Yes, we can hear you just fine. Say hello to our Facebook fam, would you please?
Hey, people, how y'all doing? My name is JB. My man Wally B gave me a whole list of other names, but
Yes.
J Bizzle is hey, all of that. Before the show is over, he got to do all of them. But you know what I'm saying?
Got to do all of them.
Yeah, he got to do all of them.
I'm getting ready to say, what's up with the Captain Visor? So that I can explain the Captain Visor, Captain Burberry, Captain Pimp, P.I.M.P.
Well, I mean, Wally B sat down and came up with all of that, man. It's like, I don't know. I used to wear visor all the time, so I was Captain Visor. I used to have Burberry shirt and hat to match, so I was General Burberry. But I wore Coogee, so I was the Coogee polar bear. So I mean, it's a number of things that my man came up with, you know. So, and then as far as the pimp thing, you know, that was poet in my perspective, you know.
Hey,
And
if I can chime in real quick since we talked about it. So everything that you'll see during the discussion, everything JB does is like over the top and big. It's like, you know, so the nicknames naturally came about because like every show he would have a visor on. Or like when it wasn't no Burberry shirt, it was a Burberry outfit. Like the Burberry hat, the visor, the shirt, shorts. Who got Burberry socks? Like it's just everything was just over the top. So it was just like, yeah, you got to get a nickname when you go above and beyond like that.
Yes.
So
listen, so you got to have a friend like Wally B to be able to identify those things. So gotta love it.
yeah,
That's the power.
yeah, and because I cook every now and then I became Chef Pimpalicious.
All right.
All these other things that he came up with, man. But
Chef Pimpalicious. Okay, got it. So JB, ex-military, what branch?
I was in the Navy.
Thank you for your service. Sure, thank you for your service. Yes.
You know, there was another person on this panel that was also.
Uh-oh.
Well, it wasn't Walter. I ain't calling no name, but it wasn't Walter.
Oh, nice. What's up with that?
I forgot about that part. Yeah, I used to play football too for Jesuit High School, and upon graduation, I received an appointment to the United States Naval Academy. Chose to go to the United States Naval Academy Preparatory School up in Rhode Island. So I had a brief 9-month stint in the United States Navy. So yeah.
Thank you for that brief 9 months of your service. Thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Oh my God! So my son just actually finished basic training in the Army, and actually he's in AIT, the advanced training there in Fort Rooker. So my prayers going over to him. He's studying aviation, so we're gonna see. He's excited. I'm very proud of him. But with things going on in the world, I'm like, oh my gosh, Lord, just protect all of our troops, and I have an even more vested interest now because my son is in the military. But thank you guys. And so let's talk about it, because this is what we do on Conversations with Shelly. We talk about it. And so there's different questions I want to ask all three of you gentlemen. So however you feel, you just kind of chime in. But first of all, let's thank you so much for joining me here and having the conversation and talking about art and the performance of poetry, period, and being a poet and spoken word. And so let's go back. Talk to me about, since I have the three of you on, BOBR, Black on Black Rhymes. How did you guys come together and you become founders of it, and how did it happen here in Tampa over 20 years ago? Talk to me about that.
So Black on Black Rhyme Tampa is the first chapter outside of the original Black on Black Rhyme, which was founded in Tallahassee, Florida by my man Keith Rogers in 1998. And I actually was first exposed to Keith. Again, this was during my senior year at FAM. And after my first time performing on stage, somebody was like, yo, it's this dude that's doing like poetry. He's doing like poetry shows every Sunday night, like out of his house. And so at that time, it wasn't called Black on Black Rhyme. It was called Poetic Drive-Bys. And part of the reason why is because there would be so many people there that the poets would have to like come in, do their poem, and then go back outside. And so and even during then, I didn't really get a chance to meet and get to know Keith then. He had a poetry contest after that. And even when I was in the poetry contest, it was all before I got ready to graduate, between October and December. So it was really accelerated process. And so I didn't get a chance to meet him there either, but he was behind all of this. It wasn't until he actually came down to Tampa, and he was and there was a poetry show at a place called Hollywood Nights. And I was there, my man Life was there, and that's when I actually formally really met Keith. And so I ended up moving back to Tallahassee, and by that time he had moved the show from his apartment to a place called Mount Zion Calypso Cafe. And so he started a troupe called Back Talk Poetry Troupe, and so I was fortunate to become a part of the troupe. And every Tuesday night we would have troupe meetings. The show was on Thursday, and Tuesdays would be our group meeting. And we would always have these conversations about how different the show was, how inspiring it was, and what it would be like to start Black on Black Rhymes in other cities. And so when I moved back here and ended up linking back up with Life, and Life was like, hey man, where the poetry at? And ended up meeting JB. There would be like different poetry shows, but nothing consistent. Somebody would try to do a show and they couldn't get. They didn't have whatever it was, they weren't able to be consistent with it. But every time there was like a sporadic show, like I would pop up, Life would pop up, Jay, like we would pop up at these places. And like, nobody is really able to be consistent with this. And so it seems like if it's going to be something that's going to be built, if it's going to be consistent, it's going to have to come from the three of us. And so so when we launched it, it was what do we call it? And it was like, hey, let's call it Black on Black Rhyme. And we contact Keith and was like, this is what we want to do. And Keith was like, of course, we'll throw all our support behind you. And one of the things that we do like to share with people, though, is that the original launch date, the date of the first show, was supposed to be September 11, 2001. And
wow.
That was supposed to be the first night of the show. And of course, we all know what happened. And so we ended up moving it to the following week. And so the official start date is September 18th, 2001. And it's been going for 20 years ever since then. And these the 3 you're looking at, along also too, definitely want to shout out a young lady by the name of C Main and a brother by the name of Breeze, who was a part of that collective that helped to make that happen.
I love that, and like you said, showing that connection, and then being able to bring something into the Tampa Bay area that was needed. And I like how you're saying it was different attempts, but it was destiny for you guys to come together, to bring it together. And I think when I hear things like that, I always look at things. There are things that's in the atmosphere, right? There are giftings and things that's out there, but we have to tap into it. And when we move together and we come into our destiny, it's amazing what things can happen. So talk to me a little bit, Life, about your experience with BOBR as well, and these two gentlemen.
Woo! Well, it's been definitely a growing experience. When I started doing poems. Like I said, I wasn't really into poetry like that. You know, Wally B had a big, thick white, I believe it was like a white notebook at the time. He had all this stuff tabbed and in like the little plastic sleeve thing papers, and he had a table of contents and all that. And Jay had, he had his spirals, and I don't know if it was spirals or compositions. Was it what was it, Jay?
Composition.
Compositions. Yeah, I remember we had some kind of binded books, and I mean, I just had a bunch of papers, folded, unfolded, and was reading and stuff. And so I wasn't really serious about poems like these guys. At least I didn't think so. And so I was very happy when Walt. By the way, I love it when you call him Walter B. Nothing makes me happy than when you like today. This has made my day. Please don't stop. Walter, when Walter B. And that sounds like old deacon name, But when Walt invited me to be a part of BOBR Tampa, I was happy to do it, and I kind of played the background. The three of us had different roles. Like somebody had to watch the money, somebody had to DJ, and somebody had to host. And so I
Yeah.
always like did either the DJing or the hosting. JB did most of the DJing, but I mean not the hosting. I would either do the DJing or the money. And one of these guys, maybe both, but they forced me to hosting. And once I started hosting,
It was a wrap.
yeah, yeah. I would say that as a host, I hosted quite a few shows after that, and people, yeah. So, but if it wasn't for these guys, that wouldn't have never happened. And every all those shows that you mentioned, that I had a hand in either starting or creating, somehow. Um, all those things sprung from my work with Wally and Jay and Black on Black around Tampa, so.
Amazing. JB, talk to me. So they're talking about you with the binder and the tabs. So you all organized and everything like that, rolling. Did you have a portfolio of poems already before you guys started BOBR?
I did not.
Wow.
Actually, when I started doing poetry, it was for me it was a life-saving event.
Talk to me.
Because I was some everywhere. I was all over the place, and it wasn't until I started doing poetry that everything started to make sense for me. I mean, even the story on how I met Wally. I saw life at Hollywood Nights. We were all there, but we didn't know each other. I seen them at different times, and I met Wally at a poetry show. And if I could be frank with you, I was at a poetry show. I was on house arrest. Caught the bus to the show, and
Come on.
missed the last bus home because I needed to be home by a certain time. And Wally B came up to me after I did a poem, introduced himself, and I say, "Look, man, I need a ride home. That's all I need. I need a ride home before I violate my house arrest." So Wally B gave me a ride home, and eventually I did violate it, and I went to jail. And when I got out, I was trying to find something to do.
Yeah.
And I happened to run across his number in one of my poetry. I was writing, and I happened to run across his number, and I called him. I was like, "Yo, where's poetry at, man? I need to be there." And he was saying there's nothing, but I do have an idea that I wanna do a show. And I was like, "Well, just let me know what you want to do." And from there, that's how I met Life as well. So that's what it is for me.
Oh, I love it. I love it because it's about life stories and realness. So, yeah, you can be definitely raw here as we're having this conversation, because I know what you're sharing is going to help someone. Everybody's in different stages of their lives, and everybody's on a journey, and everybody's journey takes them different places. So the fact that, you have this passion inside of you, and then you're dealing with other areas of your life and challenges in your life, and then you're saying, I got to freaking get home. I got to get home. But but the connect, see, this is what I'm saying, the connect, you doing that, and then the connect, right? And then, like you said, you go to jail, but when you're out, you're still looking for that connect.
Yes.
And so but if you wouldn't have met him or went that night, you wouldn't have had that connect.
Right.
And so now you guys are here, doing, have done this BOBR over 20 years, and I know it's classic. The fact that Walter D, you were talking about coming up 20 years, you guys are going to have, it's going to be a reunion show or something like that you guys are going to put on. Talk to me about it.
Sure. So again, Black on Black Crime was started in September 18, 2001, and so this coming September marks 20 years. So we're actually going to be celebrating. We have what's called Black on Black Crime Week, and that is generally done in all of the cities that host Black on Black Crime shows. In addition to Tallahassee and Tampa, there are also shows in Mobile, Alabama, Columbia, South Carolina, Jacksonville, Florida, and Abu Dhabi, Dubai. So it is an international show. And so our Black on Black Crime Week is actually going to be held September the 16th through the 19th here. And so that's typically involves a show portion. And then also we'll have some community activities, a cookout. We may go bowling, where there's a fierce competition between Life and I over a number of years. I know he probably been practicing, but yeah, everybody, and Jay, I think, Court, everybody get your bowl on is what we call it. And but yeah, just an opportunity for us to step outside of the stage and to come together as a community, which Brother Life has definitely been a big proponent of advocating for that, of us making this work tangible and real in the neighborhood. And so Black on Black Crime is a celebration of that, of us putting our art into action. And so the Black on Black Crime Week in Tallahassee is occurring the same time, but we're hoping that everyone here locally will join us in that celebration.
I love it, and I can't wait. So I'm sure we'll be getting more information from you gentlemen about that, so we can be able to share on our social media platforms, so that all those who want to participate and be involved can do so. Guys, I want to get to something, because JB, you touched on an area, and then also, like, you talked about experiencing life, your different challenges that you've gone through as you made your way through different things in life, and then the impact, Wally B, that you're Walter, is it? I keep saying Walter, that you're having on the youth with your collective. So you three Black men, Black brothers, doing the doggone thing in your life, right? And don't have to hear all the stories, but know that you've gone through some things in your life, and you haven't made all the right choices, and then there are times that you have. But you're here today, being effective, being impactful, impacting the community, and I love it because you're strong Black men who are here representing, and then and you're representing in the style of poetry and writing, and an expression of art through word. And when I think about our Black men, our young Black men, giving them an outlet, or looking at another avenue outside of football and basketball and being an athlete, going to school, educating themselves as well, be getting the degrees. You talked about that, life as well. There's different opportunities that are out here, having an experience with jail but not staying in jail, that freedom that has to come in your mind, right? Period. If you're locked up and they're not, but the fact that you have to have that freedom here. So you all are representatives, and I just wanted to thank you as Black brothers being here representing and impacting our youth, because I know when you all stand up that our young men see you, right? And they can look at your lives and say, hey, this is something I can do. The expression of poetry, the expression of the words. And I think, JB, you were saying one of you gentlemen, I'm not sure, you didn't have all of your works written out before you joined the BOBR, before you guys came together. And then I think it was one of you all mentioned as well that you had not shared the poem out. So talk to me a little bit about, so I'm going a different way here. So that's why I did that. I'm going a different way. I want to dig deep, right? And so I want to talk about the expression of poetry and where it comes from, right? And the motivation and the experiences, the joy, the pain, that comes out of that, the happiness, all of it that comes out of it when you're writing. The life, you're talking about your experience and the community involvement and why. And I want to hear more about that and your passion and why and what drives you. So I think that's what I want to get to for each of you to answer this question. What drives you when it comes to your poetry life as an author, your community work? What drives you to write what you write, to be involved as you are in the communities? What life experiences have driven you in your expression of your art?
So I appreciate that question too. It's a very it's a question that calls for a lot of answers. Perhaps even a lot of details. I know we don't have that kind of time, but I'll say that when I was in Atlanta, Georgia, that's when I first started really taking rap seriously. I worked with a guy named General Johnson, who was a founder, if not the founding member of the chairman of the board, a singing group that was pretty popular in the 70s and 60s, 70s. And so one of the things he told me was, when I write, my writings need to mean something. I need to say something. Don't just write about stuff. And so what he meant by that, I learned over the course of time, was that the stuff had to have some kind of social value, like work to make the world, or at least the community, a better place. And so I brought that kind of that forced me to read more, so I could have something to talk about. Read not just magazines and newspapers, which were important, but also history books. And so by the time I moved back to Tampa, and started writing poems, almost all I knew how to write about was something that had something to do with social situations that confronted African people in this country, and of course political situations as well. And so my work was always about trying to overturn those types of contradictions African people faced all the time, whether it be homelessness, poverty, police brutality, etc. And so all my poems were like that. And it wasn't until hanging out with Wally B and JB as a consequence of forming Black on Black Rhyme Tampa, that it became apparent that my my repertoire was quite limited. And so I had to I thought it prudent to begin to write about other things like love
Right.
and losing love, and even losing loved ones. And so I started putting those types of things into my poems. And Walt mentioned Breeze. Breeze was, an abstract poet, certainly the most abstract of the four of us. And I wanted to dabble in that a little bit. And so we all wrote this poem. I wrote this poem called Savior Fairy, and the three of us ended up with poems like that. We all have poems, like you mentioned earlier, Jay being a pimp, a poet in my perspective, and so all of us have pimp poems. So we would do those types of things. But yeah, the drive has always has always come from the realization that as African people in this country who came here as a consequence of slavery and brutality, it's our responsibility to use everything we got to overturn that social system, and including art. And so yeah, that's what drives me.
Awesome. Wow. I don't know. We're getting like an echo, so I don't know. I just want to make sure. I don't know if anybody has another volume going off, but just kind of check your volume. Love it, love it, love it, love it, life. Oh my gosh, I want to get into that, but I'm going to switch over. So JB or Walter B, talk to me about your motivation as far as your writing, your poetry, the poems that you do, your spoken word. Talk to me a little bit.
Go ahead, Walt.
Nah, go ahead, Jay. You got it.
Well, I don't even say much, so, and every time that I do say something, things happen. But as for myself, what motivates me is life. At the time that I even started writing, I was just focusing really on my life. That's why I'm a poet in my perspective. The issues that I was having, as far as just to be where I am today, is something that I had to write about. I had to, if I had a problem, I wrote about it. You know what I'm saying? Fatherhood. Remember I wrote Baby Daddy Ain't Ish. I wrote several poems about that, and that was dealing with fatherhood. I remember when I first wrote Pimp my pimp piece, Walt said, "You can't do that on the mic." Well, why? It's about it's about me. And then and when he heard what it was, you know what I'm saying, then it was something different, which inspired him to write a piece and Life to write a piece as well. But I say most of the things that I write about was, everyday living, on my side of the track, in my world, because that's where I was, and I found it difficult to just deal with my everyday living that caused me to pick up a pen and start writing.
I love that life, that expression. So let me ask, so how, when you're writing and when you express yourself in that form based on your life, your experiences, right? Mm-hmm. What does that do for you? I know what it does for the people, right? Because it's about identifying. And when I hear poetry, and spoken word, in a sense, my niece, which has been over, Portia Shay Sanders, she's excellent in poetry and spoken word as well, and Shay the poetess. And so I know how moving it is and what it does when a person is able to connect with the words that you guys are speaking. So talk to me about what it does for you personally as you're penning your works.
What it did for me personally, it gave me patience, because normally when I'd have a problem and I try to figure it out and I try to deal with it on my own, and it usually didn't work the way that I thought it was going to work. When I started writing about these problems, that same patience that I took to pen the poem is the same patience that I gained to deal with a problem with everyday life. So it's like I don't have to have the answer right then, but if I stay in a positive mindset, it'll come to me, and just don't act negatively towards it. And I say, so the patience came and it paid off, real well.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, JB. Talk to me. Walter B, talk to me.
Walter B.
For me, it was very, it was a self-effacing process, and something that I very much needed. I struggled a lot with identity in my life. I grew up in West Tampa, and in a neighborhood and in a family that was, street knowledgeable, and I seemed to be this anomaly, like not in my family, in my neighborhood. And so I always kind of struggled with my place in my family, with my place in my community. And poetry, what it allowed me to do was it showed me who I was, and the fact that I couldn't run from who I was. I couldn't hide behind or try to be something that I wasn't. And one of the things that I always appreciated about Life and Jay was them leading by example of they were going to be their authentic self always. Yes. And they were going to love and accept me for who I was, but also call me out when I was trying to be something that I wasn't either by pulling me to the side, or by just, or by them leading and being who they were. And so that was something that was a constant battle for me, was learning how to accept who I was, learning how to recognize and appreciate the value of my work, and not compare it to anyone else. And so again, with some of the platforms that I've been able to create, that's what they're focused on. They're focused on meeting people exactly where they are. It's not a matter of you trying to memorize your poem or sound like somebody else or write about this topic or write about that topic. This is about you really getting a clear picture of what has been placed inside of you and who you are. And then you're able to really connect authentically with other people. Just like Life and Jay mentioned, Life was the one who actually came with the idea. He was like, what we should do is, with some of these poems, like, we should all write like a version of some of these poems. Like if it's a poem I got that you like, then you write your own version. So like Conscious, The Key, Savior Ferry, PIMP. So that way, when we were going out doing shows as a trio, as a collective, like we could all do, and this was kind of before the whole group piece thing, where we would perform one, like a different group of us would perform a poem collectively as one, but we all had different perspectives on the same topic. And I thought that was so powerful, because what it did was it provided this illumination of there can be different perspectives on the same topic. It doesn't make one better than the other, but there's space for it all. And so that's something that I've always taken with me from this experience, and have wanted to spread and provide for others.
I love that you talk. You know, we live in a society, we live in a world that's so superficial, right? And you know, and I know I can speak from a female perspective. I mean, we do all these things to dress up on the outside, right? We're gonna add the weave, add the lashes, you know, the makeup and everything, but you have to love yourself there, right? You have to love yourself and who you are, you know, without all of the, you know, the things that make you, as society says, beautiful, right? You have to be beautiful from the inside out. So we live in such a superficial world. So when you talk about authenticity, that's powerful to me, about being your authentic self, so that you can have different perspectives, as you say, come from different perspectives, and it doesn't mean that one is greater than the other. You are uniquely made, right? And we think about that from a fingerprint standpoint. There's no two fingerprints that are the same. Everybody is uniquely made, and so of course you're going to come from a different perspective, and that's okay. You know, culturally we're different, right? And we're all in the same Black culture or African culture or African American culture, but there's a lot of variances when it comes to that, right? But when you talk about authenticity, it takes me to a word that popped up for me, gentlemen, and that's vulnerability. And I'd like to listen to this young lady by the name of Breanne Brown, and she talked about vulnerability. And so as gentlemen and as men, that's something we're taught. You know, we have these roles, right? The women perform in this kind of role, the men perform in this type of role. But vulnerability, for you all to be your authentic self and share when you're when you're talking from a community perspective and you're trying to impact the community, or you're writing your poetry and sharing that, performing in front of others, you have to be vulnerable. So talk to me about that vulnerability that you experience, and how do you manage that as a male, as a man, and then as a Black male? How do you manage that vulnerability? Because we're talking about emotions now, right? We can't. I think,
Yeah,
Mike, you're on
I
mute.
wanted to make sure I wasn't the echo, the source of the echo thing. So, well, anyway, yeah, I think you either have to be vulnerable or arrogant. And I was probably, you know, more arrogant than vulnerable. I don't know, or maybe arrogant enough to be vulnerable. You know, I just didn't really care much about um, uh, what people thought in terms of some kind of value judgment regarding my feelings and my emotions. I mean, I cared perhaps what they thought about the poem, and like whether I communicated those feelings in a way that connected, in a way that would make them want to hear the poem again. You know what? We needed to make money off of them things at that time, so I wanted that was important. But you know, as far as, you know, if they cared, if I talked about, you know, like you know, I had this one poem where I talked about my, you know, the mother of my oldest children, and I said, you'll never see me loving my ex-wife after the first time I should have dumped her the next night. And I mean, you know, I people might feel some kind of way about that, but I didn't care so much about that. If it rhymed and it was catchy and you wanted to hear it again, boom. And so, I mean, it was an arrogant display of vulnerability that I guess helped me, you know, push past whatever society, you know, whatever handcuff society put on male emotions. So.
Yes. What do you, JB? Talk to me a little bit about it from your perspective.
I mean, from my perspective, I really wasn't concerned about society. I was in my own world anyway. I was my own judge and jury. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, whether I was being vulnerable or whatever, I was just trying to survive. And at
Yeah.
the time, this was therapy for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I needed to get it out. I needed to write. I don't care if I was standing on stage butt naked. I still needed to be there,
Yeah.
in order to survive. That was it. I mean, it
Yeah.
brought sanity to my life.
Gotcha. I understand. Wally, do you want to share anything there about vulnerability?
Yeah, I was just going to say that I think the inclination of vulnerability is one to being susceptible to something. Like that's, you know, when you think about being vulnerable, the idea is that it opens you up to something, or it makes you susceptible to something in some way. And I know that Black men, we already are, a lot of us feel like we're already susceptible to so much. society has shown us that you're already susceptible to this or that. So it's like for a lot of us with this art, with being vulnerable, it's like, why not be susceptible to this? Why not go down? And if I'm going to be susceptible to something, it won't be because I'm not being my authentic self, because I didn't say what I wanted to say, because I didn't do what I wanted to do. And so that was something, again, for me that I had to learn, rather than trying to hide behind the guise of trying to sound good, look good, or say what people wanted to hear. No, let me be honest. Let me say what I really think. Let me say how I really feel, regardless of who cares about it. And again, for me, that was something that I had to learn. Because for so long, I hid behind trying to be who I felt like people either wanted me to be, or I felt like my reputation or my name had placed me in this box, in this cage. But that's another form of you being shackled. And so yeah, for me, vulnerability represented freedom in the way of being truthful and honest.
So, I love it. I love how you guys are breaking this down for us. So let me ask, on stage or even in private when we're writing, have you ever broken down from an emotional standpoint? So I know the joy is there, happiness is there. That comes, everybody shares that. But has there ever been a moment when you're performing your poetry or even writing in your personal time where that emotion, whatever you're writing, has bubbled up that emotion and it's brought a breakthrough or a needed release for you?
Most of my poems were just that. I needed to write about it. I'll say going through different things, and I say most of my poems being about me, I had to put it on paper. I had to get it out of me because it was tearing me apart on the inside. So I had to do it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, for me, the toughest poem I ever wrote was, I have a daughter. My youngest daughter is on the autism spectrum, and she's nonverbal. And for a long time, I didn't want to talk about it, let alone write about it. Like it was a hard realization to accept. And so, yeah, that poem, that was the hardest poem that I ever wrote, but it freed me. And in those moments, what you see is that you want so bad for things to change and for the situation to change, when what you see is that I needed to change. Like there was something, it was something that was being required of me, not me wanting her to change or the situation to be changed, but for me to change and to grow. And so that's the toughest poem so far. And then also too, as a writer, as an author, I would venture to say that there are also some things that and it's part of growth, where there are some things that you may not be ready to talk about. My brother, who I was very close to, passed away in 2014, and there's a poem that I need to write that I refuse. Like I can't. I can't. And I know that there's gonna come a time when I need to write it, but like right now I can't. And it's been 7 years, and I still can't do it. But when it's time for it to come, I know that it will.
I concur.
Yeah, me too.
Life, anything? You said you concur. I thought you had a thought there.
Well, I mean, I did at first, but Wally B said something that I thought was a perfect cap to the question you asked. So I wouldn't vitiate that.
Now you muted, Miss Shelley.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you guys hear me now?
Yes.
So I was saying, thank you, gentlemen. I think this is a great lead-in to us being able to listen to some of your works and share some of your poetry with us. And so, and at the same time, what I will do is go out and check and make sure if we have any questions from our audience. This is the time where we actually turn it over and ask additional questions, but I also check to make sure see if we have any questions from our audience. So as I'm doing that as well, I would love to for you gentlemen to showcase some of your poetry with us. And so let me see. Let's start with Wally B. Do you have something that you can, share with our audience at this time?
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to C. Renee. C. Renee is the one that extended the invitation for us to have this discussion. And so she asked us to come prepared to share one of the original poems that we had when we first started doing Black on Black Rhyme Tampa. And this was one of the original poems that I used to share and still do. And I consider it somewhat timeless because it is a reflection of we as Black people. So the poem is called What is Black? What is Black? Black is me, Black is you. Black is manifested in everything that we do. Black is the slave ship load, the long, hard road we travel barefoot so that truths would unfold. Black is the cry of Black babies separated from their mothers, legions of brother and sister that have never met one another. What is Black? Black is me, Black is you. Black is manifested in everything that we do. Black is the love that has endured and matured, is tried and tested and still stands majestic. From slave times to picket lines, two lovers of one mind, Black couples have survived by standing side by side. What is Black? Afrocentric rhythmic harmonies we brought with us from Black colonies, which gave birth to rock and roll and jazz. And if we didn't create it, we gave it pizzazz with the swing of the hips and luscious full lips. My beautiful Black sisters took over movie scripts. The true essence of motherhood and Blackness. Show others the real meaning of what it meant to be an actress. What is Black? Dorothy Dandridge, Lena Horne, Pam Grier, Jasmine Guy, Sarah Vaughan, Catherine Dunham, Patti LaBelle, Aretha Franklin. Watch my list swell with Jada, Tina, Whoopi, Oprah. They come in all shades, dark, light, even mocha. What is Black? Black is me, Black is you. Black is manifesting in everything that we do, to the way we make a statement, to our meetings and basements. Who else could bring life to such a color so basic? What a colorful race. What a wonderful taste I get when I kiss the cheek of a Black face, or the pride that I feel when I hear the voice of Malcolm. See a picture of Martin, I know that I can climb the highest mountain. In you, I see myself as Black is manifested. I give thanks and praise to God for the power that is invested in me to overcome any and all obstacles. And after a brief study of my history, there is nothing deemed impossible. What is Black? Black is me, Black is you. Black is manifested in everything that we do, how we communicate, how we relate. They criticize Ebonics because what they don't know, they hate. Yeah, we changed our slang, rearranged the game. For years, they tried to stop, but they could only contain. They disregarded our loyalty, trashed our poetry, labeled us slaves, but our roots scream royalty. Inside of each drug fiend is a form of queen and king, hidden beneath desires of materialistic things. And I am what is Black. I am a composition of chemicals that have all blended well that should be classified as a miracle. I'm my father's diligence, my mother's spirit, my brother's humor, and my sister's appearance. I'm Shaka Zulu's audacity, Booker T's charisma. How I gained Thurgood's confidence still remains an enigma. I'm Tony Dungy's patience, Marvin Lewis and Stare. Representatives of my traits are displayed everywhere in magazines, radio, books, TV. What Hollywood has adapted was stolen from our streets. So what exactly is Black? Black is me, Black is you. Black describes the events that our people have gone through and still emerge victorious as the leaders of the pack. And there are many, many other colors, but the root of all is Black.
Woo!
Mm.
What is Black? Oh my gosh. Thank you, brother.
Mm. But
You
you a
simmer
poet or
on
something?
that. You just- Talk to me, guys. Talk to me. What do you say?
He's a poet or something, spoken word artist.
Ooh. It amazes me. Just I guess all of the analogies that go into your spoken word. Anytime I hear the poetry, right, and the associations, right, and it just immediately it's a visual that happens, right? It's a visual that happens that when your words, it becomes a visual to me. I'm a visual person, so I begin to, when I hear your words, I begin to see, right? I begin to see things. So just tremendous, just tremendous. And the fact that you all can remember, you can remember all of that. How can you remember? Tremendous. Talk to me, JB. You have something to share with us. Mike, you have something to share with us. JB,
Listen,
you got something to share.
listen. I remember being at too many shows, and I have to go to Wally B and go with my poem. He'd say, "Man, you got this." It's like, "Man, you sure I got this?" Yeah, you got it. So, but yeah, I like I said, most of my poems are about myself. So it's a poem that I'm about to do. It's called "The Making of a PIMP," Poet in My Perspective. But before I do that, I want to say this here. Late night by the lamplight, I write.
Right, yeah.
Sweet, superb delight is the gift.
Intimate being in my passion and pain, and I'm at it again, and I be contemplating.
Contemplating the world, the globe.
This world, this road, let's travel, because most never do know
Such a thing even exists.
or even dare to go that way if they do.
So there winds up only being a few of us who can speak this way.
Think this way. Okay.
You done?
Yes, yes. You started
Hey,
it.
but I just want to get your mind, you know what I'm saying? That way you can start thinking of something else. All right.
Right on.
Okay, here we go. Now there's an original poem that I used to do, my first poem, but it has to be edited, and I don't know the edited version of it. So, and that was please help me get my head together. I don't know the
We have
edited
to
version.
edit.
I don't know the edited version of that.
We have to edit.
It would be nice.
Let's go.
It would be nice to edit.
Oh,
okay.
How about that?
When
That's better.
When you started being nice.
Well, hey, remember, I'm the elder of the group, so I started doing things a little bit different.
So say no more.
Okay, here we go. Due to me constantly feeling forgotten and forsaken, I also feel as I'm a victim of a possible mistaken identity, as I pretend to be conducive to the sudden changes in my life. And I continue to veer off to the left because I've forgotten how to do right a long time ago. And some of these bad habits that I have that just won't go away. And just for today is the phrase that the support group told me to say in order to make it until tomorrow. Now, if only I could get my physical being to follow along with this somewhat spiritual program, but it seems like I'd be damned way before I consider myself being blessed. So constantly, I stay stressed about some of the smallest things, forgetting that even in the beginning, this spoken word was dictating my fate. And my only mistake is that I didn't utilize this art a long time ago. Like those times when I didn't know how to mentally separate myself and still physically exist here in the present. Because only a small percent wants to present their dirty lines in between the lines of a page. And then to step up on the stage and display their hurt, their disappointment, their heartbreaking affairs, because sometimes it's underlined with years and years of rage. And not only is this a brave and bold step, but it's also a courageous act. Because see, this is the opportunity for some of us to take back our lost joy. Like the joy that I lost watching my mother having a nervous breakdown trying to make a man out of her oldest boy. And it completely destroyed the bond that I had with my best friend. So then I had to pretend that me and my father was cool, overlooking the fact that if it wasn't for him, I would have never finished high school. And back then, music was the only tool that I used to escape this world. That wasn't until I found a more beautiful thing called girls. And with that curled up in the back of my mind, I found passion, lust, and desire, waiting to inspire me to think this way, to speak this way. But need I say that I also found a love for the street life. And that's why I learned the difference between having a Jezebel versus having a wife. So I kind of stayed hyped for the hustle. Used my gift of gab to flex my lyrical muscle, but the path that I chose was still not an easy street, and I was yet to find my love for this thing called poetry. So unknowingly, I searched for love in all the wrong places. Got caught up when I caught a couple of cases. So now the spaces that I took up was that of many jail cells. As I created my own hell right here on earth, but still I searched for the things that I felt like I was missing. Completely dissing the whole idea that it was oh so simple back then. That I actually started trembling from the thought of my own success. That was until I had to be processed within the judicial system once again, and still, I don't think that I was actually quite listening. Because in the midst of my distress, I found myself so completely distraught at what I thought was about to be the last moments of my life. When out of desperation, I picked up a pen and I began to write. And that's when it hit me. That's when I finally found my love for this thing called poetry. Because unknowingly, when I was sitting down to write a suicide letter all alone, I realized that I was really writing this poem.
Yes. Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Woo.
So
The emotions, that's what we were talking about, the emotions on display and the fact of you being able to share that and that vulnerability to be able to share. Oh, you capture that in that beautiful poem, that poetry. Woo.
Thank
All
you.
right. Okay. Woo. Life, what's up?
All right. Well, so unlike my My brothers, I don't like you said. You're amazed at how we can remember all that. You'll be just as surprised that we can forget it all too, and we've been successful at that. But I can read a poem if that's okay.
Go ahead.
All right, so I think this poem is fitting for the times. So I'm gonna read this poem. It's called "America is the Sickness." If the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing the world he does not exist, the greatest trick America ever pulled is convincing the world. Let me start over. If the greatest trick the devil ever pulled is convincing the world he does not exist, the greatest trick America ever pulled is convincing you HIV and AIDS does. Proof ain't even a requirement. As long as they sell it, you'll buy it hook, line, and sinker. Without using your thinker, you're all frantic and panicking, believing you're going to catch HIV and AIDS unless you use condoms or stay abstinent. And I admit, if I could imagine that doctors, nurses, and medical assistants were never mistaken, I probably wouldn't question where my blood goes when they take it. And if I could imagine it was impossible for them to get my test results mixed up with another patient's, I'd likely accept whatever diagnosis they gave me on a just because they say so basis. But I'm a realist, and that's not realistic. And since we most likely don't see eye to eye in this instance, never mind our opinions, let's keep this scientific. The human body's first line of defense against illness is its immune system. In order to build it strong, it has to have adequate water and optimal nutrition, which means the amount of ounces of water we drink every day should at least equal the number of pounds we weigh divided by 2. And every day we have to get vitamins, minerals, omega-3 fatty acids, and amino acids, which we typically don't find in our foods. So we're undernourished. On top of that, we constantly attack our immune systems by consuming poisons and preservatives like alcohol, tobacco, cocaine, and weed, and all those unrecognizable, unpronounceable additives listed on packages of processed foods and meats. And as soon as our immune systems get weak and we get sick, we get antibiotics that make our immune systems retarded, but not allowing it to learn how to do its job and mount appropriate responses against disease. And as if that ain't enough, we subject our immune systems to much more, like inadequate rest, excessive sex, and sperm, which you should have known what you should have learned has immune inhibitors in it. But in case you didn't listen, sperm suppresses the immune system to decrease chances of rejection and increase chances of conception, but it has the same effect on the body whether it's absorbed by the rectum or ingested. So check it. The greatest trick America ever pulled is convincing you that HIV and AIDS exists. Because after all of them years of eating backwards, and after all them years of beating your immune system up with your vices and bad habits, and after all them years of making proper antibiotics your common practice, what you think happens? It's not magic Johnson, but it is. Your immune system crashes. Then they get to make trillions of dollars off our ignorant asses. And our misery pays for their mortgages, college courses, 7 Series Beamers, and Mercedes-Benz S-classes. That's why they don't tell the masses what's going on. And when I tell them, it's like told me going off about how the earth is round when everybody else believes it's flat. As a matter of fact, how many of y'all believe in AIDS? How many of y'all believe it was made by man? I believe it was made by man too, but I refuse to believe it was created in the lab. Why would they invest that kind of time and money when they know they can control everything you think with the propaganda machines they have? Absolutely positive you won't believe me when I tell you. There's no such thing as coincidence. Yet, everywhere around the globe where you find impoverished conditions, I guarantee you're going to find 3 more things: a lack of information, malnutrition, and a high concentration of the so-called HIV and AIDS epidemic, all derivatives of the same parasitic social system. But the devil is so good at convincing you that you believe it's not them, it's you. But who controls the global economy? Who produces and prepares the food? Who keeps spewing all these ambiguities about HIV and AIDS they can't even prove? After a quarter century of studying AIDS, can't tell you if it's going to kill you in 10 years or 2 days. Just tell you the virus keeps mutating so they can't predict the way it behaves. And since you believe whatever they say, I know you won't believe me when I tell you being healthy has more to do with safe sex than any latex they sell you. If you fail to take care of your body, baby, of course your immune system is going to fail you. It's not singular, it's just cellular. The greatest trick America ever pulled is convincing you of some HIV and AIDS existence. They need you to believe people are dying from some mysterious virus. They cannot afford for you to know that people are really dying because America is the sickness.
Ooh. Nice.
What's happening?
That touch on your consciousness right there. And it's,
But you retired though. But he retired though.
You seen me stumbling
Yeah,
and reading and carrying on?
I mean, but even what you're sharing there is, you know, that it's a great. It can move into so many discussions because we're right here dealing with the COVID and the coronavirus, and so everybody, whatever your points of view are points of view. I'm just saying what you put out there is just the impact from a community standpoint. Is we're talking about sickness, period, and then when you're talking about the importance of just taking care of ourselves. Right. And so whatever the studies or whatever the research is, what you believe and what you don't believe, the fact is about loving yourself to the point that you're taking care of yourself. So,
So
go ahead.
I'm a part of the African People's Socialist Party. Chairman Omali Yeshitela is the chairman, and he's coined this thing that people call COVID and coronavirus, the colonial virus. And I agree, you know, and so AIDS, HIV, as far as I'm concerned, was just the 20th century colonial virus, and this is the 21st century colonial virus, this COVID thing. So most of the stuff, that's why I wanted to do that particular poem or read it, because most of the stuff in there, you know, is applicable to the 21st century colonial virus, in my view.
Oh my goodness. Woo, gentlemen, you have put fire on this screen today. This has been a wonderful interview. This has been a wonderful time of sharing. This has been a beautiful display of art, very articulate, very poetic, very deep, and thought-provoking and challenging, all at the same time. So I'm going to go out to our Facebook, and you know, Tina, maybe you could help me. If they're, you know, within our WebEx platform, do we have any questions out there? Maybe, Tina, you can come off mute either way, but do we have any questions out there from our Facebook fam that we can, that we need to ask these gentlemen today? I tell you, this has been great. Do we have some? Thank you. All right, gentlemen. So as we're looking to see if we have any questions for our Facebook fam, we have been on here a little over an hour, definitely a little bit more over an hour. So this has been tremendous. Let me ask this question while Tina is looking to see if we have any questions from our audience. Where do your best place, and I think maybe JB, you might have hinted at this before, but when do you do your best work in writing? Do you have a place that you go, a space that you go, certain times of day or night? Where is your space that you are most creative when you're doing your writing? And JB, we can't hear you on mute. Yeah.
Again, I don't have any physical space. I mean, it's just, you know, what my mindset is, you know. If something heavy on my mind enough and I need to deal with it, you know, I pick up a pen and I start writing. I can be, you know, as Life stated, you know, I don't know how many times I've written on the back of a receipt on, you know, on a piece, any kind of paper, you know what I'm saying? It's like I used to carry a pen around with me all the time because you never know when it's going to hit you, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I sat in church and wrote a poem. So it's like I said, I have no, you know, not to mention it's been plenty of times these words have woken me up in the middle of the night where I get up and like lights, late night by the lamplight. All right, you know what I'm saying? So it's like I'm somewhere anywhere. There's no specific place, you know. Life shows up no matter wherever you go, and I'm not talking about the person life, you know what I'm saying? But life shows up no matter what.
Yeah.
So
Wally B, or like, any thoughts about your best place or space that you have writing, or is it the same as JB?
Well, sort of. For me, it's quite similar. I stopped writing my poems down on paper quite some time before I retired. Like that poem you just heard, I wrote that, you know, in my head. No paper, no pen, no nothing. So I would just walk around and write, you know, in my head until the poem was done. So like just walking. You know, I don't recall just sitting around and, you know, like I would if I was writing a poem, like sitting in a place and writing, but I recall I used to travel quite a bit when I did spoken word for a living, and so like on planes, in lines and airports, walking, just writing the poems. So yeah, like I guess like Jay said, just in my own head, you know.
Yeah. Wally B?
Yeah, same thing. Where inspiration can strike anytime. So like Jay was
Yeah.
mentioning, I got the white notebook that Life alluded to earlier. It has poems that were started on a pack of envelopes, paper towels, the vacuum card, warranty cards. But again, like I think those things are important too because they serve as a reminder. There's a there's a brother that we all know and love by the name of Brother John. And Brother John was always adamant about us chronicalizing our work and documenting it. And so I feel that that's an important part. So for me, like the idea of sitting with the pen and paper, either late at night or early in the morning. Me, I need quiet. Like a lot of people, they write to music and all of that. Like I need a quiet, isolated space where I can really focus on what needs to be said and being able to hear and pull things together. So for me, the place doesn't matter as much as the atmosphere of where I am being someplace really quiet.
Let me ask. We have no questions so far from the audience, but we have some comments based off of as you guys were sharing different things. We had some of our audience commenting. But let me ask this: with the pandemic, any impact to your work or even the inspiration to write more during the pandemic? Any feedback there?
None for me.
Yeah, not really. My wife and I, we launched an initiative. We were going to do a show called Mouth of the Mural that was featuring ekphrastic poetry, which is basically taking a piece of art and turning it into poetry. It comes from the phrase, "A picture is worth 1,000 words. Let's find them." And so the goal was for it to be a community in-person event. However, when COVID hit, we saw it as an opportunity to take it to the digital platform. So what we've done is we've actually recorded as kind of like a digital series. So that's actually now on YouTube and on our website. So it was a really good practice for being able to take kind of that feel of something that ideally for me, I just like Life was really insistent of us meeting in person. Like I think you miss a lot when you're online like this. There's a lot that I think body language, facial expression, and those things. I'm really adamant about helping young people to understand that a lot of times you're not necessarily getting in trouble for what you say, but how you said it. And some of the challenges is in what you're communicating outside of your mouth. And so, it's a challenge to transpose these messages like in person and put them online. But I think it is part of, the wave of the future, and we got to get used to it. So that's how COVID impacted us as far as with me with my
Right.
art.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was gonna say I found myself required to respond to a lot of nonsense people saying about the colonial virus. So I've created a few memes, and like one of them is Bill Cosby on the phone. Like you like, yeah, I believe people think the vaccine is safe. They'll believe anything, and I got some with Timmy from South Park and Patrick from SpongeBob because it's just we're in the constant contest of ideas, and that's one thing I always understood. Based on my relationship with the African People's Socialist Party and the teachings of Chairman Omali Yusuf, that this contest of ideas where you have the colonizers fighting for our brains, and they've won most of our brains, and it's our responsibility as working class Africans to win the brains of African working class people back. And so, so I've been working at being clever and cleverly impressing upon people that we can apply science to this problem right here and figure our way out.
Wow, I loved it, and I think what I hear, just with the three of you gentlemen, myself and just everyone, it's about the expression of thought, of idea, of of history, of our present, of our future, right? And that's all interweaved in, within our community and how we survive as people, right? And what it takes for us to survive and to thrive. as we get ready, we're here over 30, almost 30 minutes over, so I'm going to have to bring this to a close and bring it, close it down, gentlemen. So my apologies for keeping us so long, but everything was just so good, and it was just really flowing, and I just had to let it keep flowing. But you guys did something. I think, JB, you did it. You started it. I think Tina called it, C. Renee called it a collective or whatever, where you guys are able to pop off of each other. You were talking about the perspective. You guys would come together and you would share a piece here, a piece there, and you'll kind of piggyback off each other. What is it called now?
What are you talking about? See, Renee, look.
I don't know. You did it. You started it when Life started something, and then Wally B jumped in, and then
you're talking about change. How we were doing change?
Oh, change. Yeah. Yeah, that's just the whole thing of knowing the piece, and you don't know how many times we done been somewhere and somebody forgot their poem. Wally B was the one who remembers everybody's poem. Now I can tell you that. Okay, Wally B knows everybody's poem.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was like, y'all gonna give me a little piece of that when we get ready to leave.
We did
it. Oh, you got that much.
So, gentlemen, we're getting ready to close out. It has been an honor. It has truly been an honor. You have blessed us with your gift, with your thoughts, with your expression, with your mind today on Conversations with Shelly. You have blessed me, and I know you have blessed our audience. And I always say I love, before we close, to give our guests the last words as far as anything that you would like to say or share with our Facebook or our YouTube audience, just last things you would like to share, and then I'm going to close us out. So, Wally B, since you came on, let's go ahead and, Walter B, let's go ahead. Anything you would like to share, final words you would like to share with our Facebook and our YouTube audience before we close out the show today?
Yeah, first of all, just want to say thank you to my brothers, to Life and to JB, and again, also to C-Main and to my brother Breeze. We built something, and it's part of our legacy. And so just want to say thank y'all for seeing it, for remaining committed and diligent to this work, and for us being patient with each other, and I appreciate too, the fact that we're kind of old school. You won't see a lot of back and forth between us online. Like we have challenges, and we don't always see eye to eye, but it's a phone call, it's a conversation face to face, and I've grown, and I'm appreciative of you all. Like I said, I've been able to grow artistically and personally by being with y'all. So I'm grateful for y'all. And lastly, just want to say thank you to the community. Thank y'all for seeing the value in Black on Black Rhyme. To everyone that's ever come out to a show, to anyone that's ever graced the stage, for anyone that's ever recommended people to come to the show. We did this for you all. We did it for us because we're part of you all. We're part of the community, but we did it for you all as well because we thought that this is something that you all needed, and you all have shown up, and it has become a model and has birthed everything that you see now. Tampa as a spoken word poetry, as an artistic scene, even on the visual art side, would not be what it is were it not for Black on Black Rhyme. And the individuals that are in this art community now will tell you that they point back to Black on Black Rhyme as part of their foundation. And so I'm just proud of my city. Proud of y'all, man, and love y'all, man. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you, Wally B. Thank you. Life.
Yeah, I just really want to express my deep and profound appreciations for inviting us on this program. Thank you, C. Renee, for making this happen, for whatever role you played. And, just to echo what Wally B said, man, it's been an incredible time. We spent a lifetime together. We've seen our children grow up together. Not that they grew up together, but I'm saying each of us have seen our children grow up. I remember when some of your children were born, as well as you remember when some of my children were born. I mean, we've been around each other for some incredibly personal and intimate moments. And as a matter of fact, my oldest of the youngest two children was born on September 19th, and I was thinking about coming to the show on September 18th because it was the anniversary show, and I was going to leave her mom in the hospital and come to the show. And Jay and Wally said, "No, stay there because the baby might be born." And so, we just been around each other for so many incredible experiences. Feeding people together. And it's good to see you all age well. Look strong, sound strong. And I'm just delighted that we're still around each other and can do something like this. And I really want to again echo Wally B when he says that Black on Black Rhyme started this. But not only did we start this thing, I mean, we are still, unfortunately though, if you ask me, but we are still the example. We are still there's nothing that has replaced Black on Black Rhyme yet, as far as being a bastion of spoken word and bringing so many artists through and developing so many artists, and sending out so many artists as ambassadors of spoken word, from Tampa. Nobody's done that, since even we stepped away from Black on Black Rhyme Tampa. So not only did we start something, we built something that has not been easily replaced, and that's and it has its good and its bad, but I mean, I really am proud to say that, and I think it's damn well worth recognizing.
Thank you, Life. JB.
Yes. I also want to thank you for having me on the show. It's always good to be with my brothers to see them. Um, what we've done for me was life saving. Um, it taught me how to live. For the past 20 years, life has really changed. Life is great for me. I remember when we started this, and I myself, I had no filters and was all in. And I was kind of reserved as well, even though I had no filter. I was very reserved, and Wally B, encouraged me to speak, and then when I spoke, at a We Take No Prisoners meeting and things. See, and it's like we could do this for forever. Just bring up little stuff. So what I'm saying. I got to thank them for bringing me out. Allowing me to be who I am today. You know what I'm saying? Because I say even with my children, I think I had the first Black on Black Rhyme child. And then as far as what life was talking about, I left the hospital with my last daughter. I left the hospital and on because we had a show. You know what I'm saying? Her mother was in labor that day, and it was like, well, is she going to go into labor anytime soon? And it was like, no. Okay, I'm going to go back to the show, and I'll be back. So, and that's just how it was. But yeah, I do thank you for having me here today. I mean, to reminisce. 20 years is coming up, and it's been some phenomenal stories. Um, road trips. Road trips was always something else. My man Wally B brought up Brother John, and I know even on the screen, Life and I, we made eye contact with one another. so, so yeah, I really thank you for this time. You know what I mean? It was very joyful. So thank you once again.
Tremendous, tremendous. Gentlemen, thank you so much for gracing us and being a part of our show, How Great Thou Art, on Conversations with Shelley on this afternoon. It has been a tremendous show, one for the books, as we will say, and definitely one that I know our Facebook and our YouTube audience have